Okay, thanks everyone for turning up before lunch. I'm sharing on this aspect on the use of research in my teaching itself, how that connects and why I found that useful. Okay, this is a brief outline of what I'm going to cover. Like what Elizabeth has shared, this is my experience. But in the beginning, I would like to share that when I first started during teacher education, I did not really believe in research. I didn't feel it was of any use. When I went for school attachments, practicum, and my first few years of teaching, I felt that what I gained most were the experiences shared by the skilled, experienced teachers themselves rather than the research itself. But something changed along the way. In the teaching at NIE, this is what I adopt. I have three types of activities in all my tutorials. The first type of activities that I have is I will require the students to role play, put themselves in the shoes of the actual students that they're going to teach. So whatever activities that they are planning for their future students, they themselves must go through that particular activity. So if they want the students to role play, they must role play. If they want the students to come up with visual map, story map, storyboards, they must do that themselves. So they must feel what their own future students will go through. So that's one type of activity. The second type of activity will require them to be university students themselves, to read, to critique, to share their thoughts of their readings, their theories that they have encountered. So that's relatively easy. And the third type of activity would be from a teacher perspective. This activity will require them to then think of themselves as teachers, as future teachers. What are the various considerations, what are the practical considerations that they need to have? So in all my tutorials, I will have these three types of activities. So they are moving from one role to another role in that sense. Because I do feel it's important for them to be mindful of their future, because they will be graduating from us and going to the classroom. So they need to know how their pupils, how their students feel as a student. They need to have that experience. They need to know how they would feel as future teachers. What are the various considerations they would need to have, the practical considerations as well. And they also need to know the theories. They cannot leave the theories here. They need to bring that to the classroom as well. So I'm trying to integrate that a little bit. After I'll explain that a little bit further. Okay, from the research done by the British Educational Research Association, they find that there are four main ways that we can embed research into our program. One way is the content itself. We can weave in research into our teacher education content. We can use research to inform the structure, the curriculum, the approach. As well, importantly, teachers and teacher educators need to be able to engage with research and show that these research that we do is of value to our students, to their livelihoods in the future. Of course, a quote from Wolf, from something known to something unknown. Okay, they are all very familiar with experiences. We all have vast experiences. We have had at least 12 years of apprenticeship or observation of teachers. So they have lots of experiences. So I'm trying to connect that experience that they have to the theories that we cover in class, to the research that we share in our tutorials itself, so that they'll see, that makes sense. The research has confirmed certain experiences that they may have. The research has repudiated certain ideas that they might have about teaching itself. Particularly for beginning teachers, because it allows them, it shows them what are the new avant-garde ideas that they may encounter in the classroom, or they may not have encountered in their own experiences. So they can bring these ideas into their own classrooms in future. And particularly the second point, the external stakeholders, a very big group of their stakeholders when they are teachers would be the parents. And the parents are getting more and more educated nowadays. Parents no longer just graduates, we have postgraduates, the whole postgraduate degrees, and some are very highly qualified. And these highly qualified teachers, I'm so short, I only got 5 minutes left. Well, it's going to be a very short sharing then. I was saying, the parents are extremely highly educated nowadays, so which means they're also a lot more demanding. And these parents, just like us, have had at least 12 years of apprenticeship observation. So they feel they can teach very well. And so they will query. They are more vocal nowadays. They'll come to the classrooms, they go to the schools, and they'll complain, they'll query, why are you teaching my child this particular way? Why have you adopted this particular approach? I don't agree with this particular approach. Why have you done so? And so as our future teachers, our future graduates, they need to be able to justify that particular approach. And they cannot justify that particular approach using their own experiences. Because likewise, the parents, the external stakeholders, will also justify their particular rationale using their experiences. So experiences, we are using experiences against experiences. That doesn't quite cut it. And so what I'm equipping my students, my future teachers, is research. It is a form of weapon. It is a form of shield for themselves, for their rationale, for why they have adopted certain pedagogical approaches, why they have made certain curricular decisions. It's not just based on experience, but experience with research and with theories itself, in that sense. The third point, by getting them encouraged to embark on research, they have a means to explain certain approaches that they have adopted, not just based on their own readings, not just based on what they have been exposed to, but also based on their real-life studies of problems in schools, or educational problems in schools. So I do feel there is that value in that sense, which the external stakeholders do not have, because external stakeholders will not go to school to do a research. The external stakeholders are just merely articulating their feelings, their frustrations based on their own experiences. So in that sense, we are professionalizing, I do feel I'm professionalizing our future teachers in that sense, equipping them with that skill which is external stakeholders are not using, are not tapping on. Simon Borg did a well-known figure in teacher education. I feel that for research, it needs to be practical, relevant, and feasible. Practical in the sense, our research must show our teachers, our future teachers, that hey, research is not something that is read only by academics, by a small number of academics. It is useless. Must show that hey, research can be very useful. Research can be applicable to the real-life classroom, and this is very important, because if they don't see that as important, don't see that of any use or any utility, then an opportunity is lost. Huge opportunity is lost. And they must find that the research that we share with them, that they do, is relevant to themselves as teachers. Then it's relevant to their pupils' learning as well. Yeah? And finally, it needs to be something that is easily done. Not such a large scale that they feel it is too mind-boggling, too tiring, too time-consuming to do, but something that they can embark on easily. So these three are something which I tend to emphasize in my sharing with them as well. And of course, I do share with them there are great benefits to be reaped from doing research, and the implicature is I need to model that. I need to model that I do research, and my research is practical, relevant, and feasible, so that they would be, in a way, encouraged to do so, and hopefully they are motivated to do so on their own as well when they graduate from teacher education. So these are some of the works that I have cited just now. So as a result of my belief in this, I have incorporated certain changes to my teaching over the years. One, in recent years, I've used a lot of problem-based case studies. I've shared with them, I constructed case studies of situations that beginning teachers would face in schools, and how they can then address that. In their groups, they will share and discuss. And I'll always link those case studies to the literature, to the research that they are currently studying for that particular topic, for the particular week in itself. So they will see the relevance of what they are reading, the relevance of their literature, the relevance of the theories, the relevance of the research that they are using for that particular course, rather than seeing this particular article is useless for me. I don't really quite understand it. How useful is that? By using that case study, they will then see the link. They make that link. I can apply this here in that sense. And from the various research papers I've done over the years, I used them in my own courses. So they will see that, hey, this is possible. These are all practical research studies, and these are all applicable to the classroom settings as well. So they do see, hey, there is that meaningful connection between the wider research world and the classroom application in that sense. I've used all these various research in my own courses, whether BA, BEd, or MA courses, as well as the ministry's own professional development. I've utilized my research as well. And because these are directly applicable to the classroom setting, hence they find it useful. Hence they find it useful in their learning. This is the projects I've done, and I've shared them freely with them. I've summarized my research work, what I've gone through schools to do, to study, and how that has generated these papers which I've shared with them and which they're using in their own various studies. As you can tell, these are all very practical type of research. It's all classroom research itself, scaling, using different approaches to teach, and looking at implementation of national curriculum. Okay, that's it. I have more than enough time, right? Want to go for early lunch? Okay, any questions or thoughts you might have? Please feel free to disagree with me. You don't have to agree at all. Elizabeth, any question?
I mean, earlier on there was a slide, alarm malfunction, but we have plenty of time. Any questions for Jason about aligning, using his, yeah.
Your students, are they receptive?
That's a wonderful question. I cannot say every single one of them are.
How do you manage that?
So I share with them why I embark on this and why it's of value. But particularly, I will always emphasize on the experiences of their stakeholders. And from that particular perspective, they're more amenable to what I share once I shared that aspect, that these parents who are a lot more educated will challenge them. And I'll use an example of a real life example where a judge, a parent who is a judge, queried a contract teacher about the use of certain teaching techniques and made the contract teacher cry, a former student. And after going through the teacher education course, she realized that actually she is right and the judge was wrong. But she was not able to articulate or defend herself then because she did not have that knowledge in that sense. So I use these real life excerpts, real life examples to share with them the importance of studying these wider literature as well as embarking on our own research in that sense. Upon sharing these, they tend to be more amenable. In the beginning, they tend to feel like how I felt in the beginning of my own teacher education. I felt that research is a white elephant of sorts. Yes.
So how about action research? Have you thought about using action research, or have you tried action research with the teachers, for example?
I do not conduct action research in my courses. I'm just merely sharing with them my own research work in that sense. And I do encourage them to embark on it because I connect them to they have undergraduate course on research methods. So to encourage them to do their own research in the future. But I don't give them action research projects because my courses don't require that in that sense. My first paper was based on action research actually. Yeah, so that's useful. But don't really emphasize the term action research. I just share with them research studies as a whole. I try not to differentiate action research and research that we academics do. Everything is at research, just in different scale, and their scale is for the benefit of their children, of their school, so on in that sense.
Do you do that in your course? Is that what you're asking?
No, not really, because if you look at results from the perspective coming from outside the school, right, they are very hesitant to look at the ideas. If they have the problems within their schools and they are trying to kind of solve it by using old methods, right, and trying to address it, and it's a different way. There's ownership, right? It's more worthwhile, down. Right? So that's what I'm
Yeah. So I always encourage them to do it on their own, with their own classes first, rather than waiting for a top-down directive. Because I connect that to their appraisal as well. Because schools appraise them for the kind of work they do. So I do share with them. If you do your own research, you have a problem with your students, the kind of problems you have in terms of teaching, in terms of motivating, whatever problems you might have, try to study it, try to do a bit of research on that, and try to propose how that can be addressed, and perhaps you can do a little study and share that study with your reporting officer. So that distinguishes them, differentiates them from the rest of their colleagues in that sense. So again, I'm connecting it to the practicality of school life. They will be, what's the word? Ranked with their other colleagues. And so by doing this, they're helping themselves as well. I try to make my sharing with them as practical as possible, linking it to their actual teaching, looking into the motivating of students, linking it to their year-end appraisals. So in that sense, it becomes more relevant, what I share in my different courses. Hope I'm responding to that in some ways. Any thoughts, Phil?
I think you're very practical in that sense, because you're giving teachers a reason for getting interested in their own, the way in which they work in school. I just kind of just think as a researcher, there's a beauty in knowledge, and that is something that is worth pursuing for its own sake.
True. Right.
And that a teacher that's not interested in their own professional practice, I think is a very limited person indeed. And just for the beauty of knowledge and the pursuit of knowledge about teaching and learning, I think research can be justified in part along those lines as well.
I agree with you on that, however, I do feel that it depends on the stage of their professional development. At pre-service stage, they are worried about survival. And so at this point, I'm addressing that need. Maslow's hierarchy of needs, I'm addressing that need. I only learned to appreciate knowledge for itself after I came here, after I got out of school. In school, I did not appreciate that beauty. Yeah.
So I'm just kind of like, the survival is important, but I wonder whether there's something else that would drive teachers in their own education. Is that wanting us to position teaching as a game of as the pursuit of survival in a particular workplace situation, then aren't we in some sense sort of could we in some sense be misrepresenting what teaching is, what the teaching profession is? It's not something to be survived by those who are the fittest and the most able. It's by those who have a passion for education, and those people who want to actually do something to help their students learn. And let me put it like this: is that I think that perhaps a teacher who was overly concerned about their own survival might not be in the best place mentally, dispositionally, to help their students learn.
True. I do take that. Thanks for sharing.
Any other thoughts about a relevant part of teaching and practice, teaching and research?
When is lunch?
Okay, yeah. I have one final. Oh yeah.
It's just that I think one of the ways to learn about research, and I think going back to your point, one of the ways to learn about learning from research from the very first moment is actually to be involved in it.
Yes, that's right.
And so you can only, and I'm sure you would sort of agree with this, is it's only once you become involved in doing your own research that you realise the value of it.
Yes, that's right. Exactly.
So, what about this in your proposition that that beginning teachers need to start researching straight away, and not wait, until they've actually started teaching and then start thinking about whether or not research is relevant to what they're doing?
I agree with you completely. It's best if they can get their hands dirty right from the start, go up to school and be a part of a research project. The problem is the RRB, isn't it? You can't have so many RRB applications.
Yeah, I think this theme of working with teachers and how I believe now there's also a research program for undergrads as well as diploma
Yes,
to
yes,
do
really,
research.
educational research.
Yeah, so something that we're definitely encouraging here. Probably the implementations will all take a while in terms of how we're actually doing it, but there's that. I think there's that desire, and also there's that. I mean, it's being done, and the process is being tweaked as we speak. So, but I think it's, even for myself, I think it's very useful for both teachers. Even I've learned from other countries because I had to study something about Shanghai, and they actually get teachers to do research from the start in their undergraduate, and it's actually a whole true train process of doing research from both undergrads, even as they start. Once they are in professional development, it's part of their in action research teams throughout. Yeah.
I've got two students at the moment that are doing, two diploma students that are doing the educational research module with me. So one of the difficulties that I think they both have is that they can't write a research question. They don't know what a research question looks like. And they certainly don't know what kind of data or evidence you would need to collect in order to answer a research question that you pose. So my point is this, is that if you can't think of a question to ask, then what kind of teacher are you going to be when you get into school?
Good point. Definitely. You need to ask what sort of problems they are.
Yeah.
How to solve that.
Absolutely.
Could it be the length or the kind of experience that the teacher has yet to arrive to be able to write a research question?
No, I think it's more of a point of being aware of what it is that you don't know, and what it is that you think might be worthy of trying to find out. So you need to be able to interrogate your own practice right from the very beginning.
Yes, so that's the length, the experience, the exposure.
No, I don't think so. I think that you can write a research question based on your own experiences. But I think that you don't necessarily ask better questions the longer your experience is. I think you can ask good questions about things right from the very start. But you've just got to be in that frame of mind in order to do it. And what you've got to be able to do is to set yourself up positionally so that you can actually stand back from your practice and look at it, sort of as something that is worthy of investigation. Actually, I'm not very good from behind, so, so I'm happy for you to take a photo, but the full front of it.
Yeah, I mean, this is great dialogue going on. Any other thoughts to this? think the question on our mind, which Phil asked, was earlier, whether we can ask questions. I think what's on our mind is when's lunch. I don't know, yes. And yes, and I just received confirmation that lunch is ready. But before we go, we want to thank both Jason and Paul for their great sharings.